What's up, Schmoville? Welcome to episode 14 of the Don't Be a Beardo podcast with my special guest, Joelle Monique. Before we get into the conversation with Joelle, I want to mention all the other great shows we have on the Schmoes Know SK Plus podcast channel. First, we have The Wanger Show, where Copster, Cody, and I talk about all random things that come to our mind. I think this week we talked about N64 games, Nintendo 64 games. We also have the Sight and Sound Weekly podcast, where Jay Williams and Ryan Snelling talk about all things pop culture. We have other great shows like the Harloff podcast, where Christian Harloff himself interviews people from Schmoes and Collider. The Outlaw Nation with John Roca. The Schmodown Rundown, and of course, After Schmo, where Jay and Ryan again also cover all things Schmoes Know. Don't forget to comment, subscribe, and rate our channels on iTunes and YouTube. And here it is, my conversation with Joelle Monique.
Shut up and sit down.
Just gonna get right into it.
I'm about that.
Yeah.
No wasting time.
How you doing?
I'm pretty good today.
Joelle Monique?
Yeah. Absolutely. Every day of the week.
Is that your saying? Have you said that before?
It's a play on my outro for Afterbuzz, which is hey guys, this is Joelle Monique. You can find me every week at blackgirlnerds.com, every Wednesday at Schmoes Know. And then there's usually like an essay or something I wrote.
You do so many shows, right? Like you're part of like a lot of things at Afterbuzz mostly?
Yeah, Afterbuzz, Black Hollywood Live, Black Girl Nerds.
What are the shows you do?
Oh shit.
Wait, like how many shows? Like total? Do you know?
I've never stopped to count.
No.
Because I think that it would be crazy. I have 4, or before season finale started, I had 5 shows on Thursday.
Season finale what?
Everything. All the shows are
like
ending for the summer. Yeah.
Oh.
So we just run on the TV schedule. I should probably inform. Okay, if you don't know what AfterBuzz TV is, it is a show kind of like it's a channel on YouTube that's kind of like The Talking Dead. But instead of just talking about The Walking Dead, we do every show on TV.
But AfterBuzz is like its own network,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. I call it a channel. It's a YouTube channel, but it's also a full network that runs several different channels. I work for their Black Hollywood Live channel. I've done work for their Book Circle Online channel, and then AfterBuzz TV.
Because is it run by Maria Menounos or?
Yeah, and her fiance Kevin Undergaro.
Okay, so they just give you guys like the studio, and they're like, hey, do whatever you want there, and then you decide like, hey, no, is it not like that?
They have producers and things, but they're like the most generous people. So if you have an idea and you're thoughtful enough about it and you put enough work behind it and you do some test shows and you get producer feedback, they will just let you use the space. So long as it's something that you're actually involved in. You can't, it's a business. I'll put it that way. But if you're a business-minded person and you come with a project, they're usually willing to help support you. So
are they looking to make a profit on it? Or are they just like, hey, this is like kind of just like a playground for people to do whatever they want?
I've never really talked to them about that. I mean, I know Kevin's main focus is he's a coach. Like, he comes from coaching people, teachers and coaches and things. And he is like the most hands-on producer I've ever met.
Bad or good?
In a great way. No, not overbearing, hands-on. And by that, I mean like, an overbearing producer is like, what are you doing? How are you doing it? When are you doing it? Did you get that? Like, that's awful.
Yeah.
Kevin is, but have you heard these 3 podcasts that already sound like your podcast?
Oh, okay.
Okay, so maybe think about what can you do differently? And then he gives you space to work. And then he'll just creep in when you're testing a show. And then he'll have like a whole bunch of pages of notes and be like, look, here's what we can do, but also here's the intro I want you to write. And then here, like, it's incredibly supportive from a guy who's spent like 15, 20 years at E, like building a career. He helps build talent. And this is a space for him to kind of do that, I think. You have to ask Kevin for sure, but that's the take from as an employee that I get.
Does he work with you directly? And he's like, hey, Joelle, maybe you should do this, do that, do that.
Yeah, totally. It's not every day, but he's helped me build shows before. He's definitely put me in touch with people who've helped my career and things like that. So
how do you build a show? Like you had a Talking Dead show or like a Talking Dead type show, and then you did test runs?
So AfterBuzz's whole model is kind of like 4 people go on a panel and talk about a show afterwards. We break down themes, who's involved, writers, directors, producers, actors, what changed this week. And then we also do fan interaction. So we stream live to YouTube, so people can watch live on YouTube. And
they can call in?
They can comment back on the YouTube,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I live in the chat because that's my favorite part of the show.
Is that good or bad though?
It depends on who you ask. I think the fans in the chat freaking love it.
Yeah.
Like we still have great conversations on the panel, but like when someone comes in and they have a question that no one on the panel, and like we're all not just usually TV enthusiasts, but people who've studied this stuff at like on a university or whatever. It's exciting to be like, oh, that's an entirely new perspective we didn't think about. And for me, like I was living in Chicago 3 years ago watching these shows, watching Afterbuzz and watching Schmoes and watching Screen Junkies and all of this. And I was like, man, there would be nothing cooler than to like be on these shows. Like you get to work. Now that I'm here, I realize the nuances of what goes into not just producing these shows, but the time to like do them as,
Now that you're here, you're like, it's not a big deal.
It's like, not that it's not a big deal. It's just not as, I was like, I'm going to make my money watching TV. I make some money watching TV. You can do a lot. You can definitely build a career, but it's just like if you plan to come out here and be an actor or a writer, like it's not going to happen overnight.
No.
And it's not going to come without its own cost to you personally, financially, time-wise.
Yeah. You have to invest a lot into it to get something out of it.
Absolutely. Like in California, I feel like we have a really strong work-to-life ratio.
What do you mean by that?
Like companies really encourage you to bring your dogs to work.
What?
Or we'll just all stay in and we're going to order lunch as a company. Like our work-to-life ratio is make sure you like go out and have a vacation. Like make sure you use your vacation time. And I find like in California, at least as compared to the Midwest, companies really want you to have a good like life outside of it. Outside of the company.
They do want you to have a life outside of the company?
Absolutely.
They don't want you to just be like, this is your life, this is all you do?
No, California definitely is like, because if you're healthy-minded and you're at peace, you can do more work for the company. The flip side of that is no one uses that time wisely. Like we are like, great, now I can start my second career.
Yeah. Now I can start this other podcast.
Exactly, which is why whenever you go to a party in California, the first question isn't like, how are you doing? Who's your day? What are you dating? It's like, what project are you working on right now?
Yeah. What do you got lined up next?
Yeah, and then it becomes like a really intense conversation of like, oh, yeah, great. Well, I'm also doing these things. And I know these people. And then you're trying to suss out, like, which producers do they know? And what studios can I get in with their name?
So it's not like meeting people just to meet people. It's meeting people to get something out of it. Like a meeting or a producer meeting or something.
A theory I've heard is, like, for the first 2 years, L.A., specifically L.A., I don't want to talk. California's a huge state. There's a lot happening here. But in Los Angeles, your first 2 years are spent defining and building your career. So you're shaping out how you want to build a career. At least for people who came here, like if you move to LA for a career. Then after that, you start making friends. So you got about a year or two of building friendships.
After 2 years, you start making friends? Yes. You don't make friends right away?
No, you're making acquaintances at first. It takes time to build a friendship. So while you're meeting people, but then at 2 years, you have like friends, like people you can call when you're sick and stuff to like feed your dog, things like that. And that is when life gets interesting because LA isn't a place of like, how do I say this? For a town that's so showy, like things you hear advertised about are usually pretty lame.
Like what do you mean?
Oh man,
things you hear are pretty lame.
Okay, so like they'll be like outside of the Burbank 16, if you've ever been to that movie theater,
the AMC theater.
Yeah. There'll always be people like handing out tickets to things,
like fan screenings or something.
Fan screenings, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Which if you don't live in LA or New York, maybe Chicago.
Yeah.
You don't really see that kind of stuff, right? So it was a little bit of a culture shock. I'm like, man, there's so much free, cool stuff to do here. In Chicago, if it's free and cool, everybody's there. You know what I mean? Like Taste of Chicago it costs money to purchase the food, but not to get into the fair. Here, like our strawberry festival, which sounded dope. I was like, strawberries everywhere. Definitely want that. You have to pay to get into the festival.
And then pay for the strawberries?
Yes. Yeah. It's a total rip. Like, what are you talking about? So in LA, like the cool stuff is handed downward to like it's like a producer being like, oh yeah, my friend's having a party like up here and there's gonna be a couple stars there and then we're gonna like screen the new show or whatever.
Yeah, that
is dope. And not because of your celebrity relation, but because rich people throw great parties.
You've been to a rich party? Rich people party?
I feel like I signed an NDA. So I can't talk about the one really cool one.
You really signed an NDA?
Yeah.
You have to sign an NDA to get into a party?
Some of them, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I've had there's somewhere they ask you to leave your phone up front.
So like
if you've gone to screenings and stuff, they have like the little things.
Oh, I get screenings like that. Yeah.
No, but there are parties too where they do that, where they hire that same service to come and they're like, we're going to lock up your phone.
So you can't have your phone at a party. So what do you do at a party?
You have to like interact with people. And that's what makes it cool because when you leave, you're leaving with like, again, because I'm so like, you leave a business contact, which is really dope.
But then how do you write down those contacts? You don't have your phone.
Business cards, but also you've made like a genuine connection. So afterwards, you're like vested in making sure you talk to that person again.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So it's really dope. It's actually mean because I keep my phone in my wallet.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm always like, do I keep it or do I not? And then I usually wind up leaving it because to be hands-free and to like live in that moment, it's a truer, I think, conversation and connection than, you know, when you, and I'm totally guilty of it. Like when you're buried in your phone.
Oh, yeah.
I love my phone. Like I'm not one of those people who's like, put your phones away, kids. I'm like, everything. My playlists are in my phone, what I listen to on the way to work, how I get to work in the morning.
Your
my
contact,
schedule.
your Twitter, or your schedule too.
Dude, when I have to pay a bill, Google just reminds me, not because I set a reminder, but because it read my emails and was like, hey, did you pay this? You didn't use Google to get there.
Isn't that sketchy though?
You would think, but for a person who's naturally disorganized, I'm like, God, this is so helpful. I know the government is probably reading my stuff, but like, have we given up on government control?
Yeah.
I feel like we all saw The Matrix and was like, not so bad.
Whatever. They can know anything about it because they don't care about us. They only care about the people making the good money.
I mean, if robots are making an existence for us, then we might as well just get comfortable in it. Like the redhead, the woman in the red dress was amazing. She's beautiful. Why not live in that world?
What's the woman in the red in the Matrix?
Yeah, remember they're the woman in the red dress that keeps distracting them, and she's like a metaphor for what the world could create. Like she's everything beautiful and she can totally distract you from your mission.
Oh, I really don't remember that. I only saw it once, but I don't remember.
Damn, what? Beardo.
It was a long time ago.
How are the Schmoes letting you get away with this?
I haven't seen a lot of movies, but somehow they keep me around.
You know what? You don't do the quiz shows, so that's why they keep you around.
That's why I haven't been invited to the Schmodown thing. Would you be good at that, the Schmodown stuff?
I'm terrible at quiz. As people I think can attest who watch Schmoes and things. I'm really awful at quiz. Like if it was
trivia,
oh god, trivia is awful for me. I love doing like group trivia where I can be drunk and just shout random things and make a funny joke or whatever. But remembering like dates and numbers and I don't know, like how many times did such and such thing? Like no, I was terrible at like test taking in school.
Oh really?
Oh yeah, no, specificity is not my forte. I'm just not great at it. I'm good at debating like themes or like who is a better character. Like if we had a debate right now of who's better, Batman or Superman, like I could clock easy 6 hours into that conversation.
So you're just making up, or you're making up things, but like using like facts to like back up your claim.
Yeah, because then my facts are more story based, you know,
as opposed to specifics of like, yeah, he was a good Batman because he was in 20 minutes of the movie.
Exactly. I don't have to bring up like how Bob Finger did or didn't shape the character. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't really matter. But I can talk about that time, like. What makes Bruce the best Batman? There's so many things to talk about.
You had a good thing where you said that the Lego Batman was the best like portrayal of Bruce Wayne, right?
It was, yeah, absolutely.
Or the best portrayal of Batman or Bruce Wayne?
Definitely Bruce Wayne.
Okay, yeah.
Because I have a running theory with my brother that Bruce Wayne is the mask.
Bruce Wayne is the mask and Batman is the real person.
Mm-hmm. When Bruce Wayne's parents died, all that was left was Batman. Just a person seeking revenge for death, but also atonement for not being the person who could save his parents. And so I really like the idea that Bruce is someone he has to work really hard to construct. Being out in the world among people, talking. And then there's that lot of like comparisons to depression. Like a lot of depressed people stay up really late at night and they don't really want to interact with people and quick to aggression, but also kind of only allow themselves to take things on. They don't want to bother anyone else with their issues. Like if Batman had a conversation with like maybe not Selena Kyle because she also needs some help, but like with a licensed professional a long time ago, he might have adjusted into like a healthy Bruce Wayne. So
you think he went crazy? Like in a sense, he went mad.
I think Batman's like a coping mechanism. You know, like I don't have to let anybody. I mean, it's honestly just a little kid being like, I'm never gonna let anyone hurt like I did, which is like it's why he's one of the best characters ever because it's such a beautiful thing. But he's also tormented and dark, and if you're into dark things like I am, you can revel in that.
But I don't think that comes across in like some of the movies that are like, oh, this guy is sticking up for the people that are being hurt physically and emotionally.
Yeah, I think the movies miss a lot of what Batman's about. Like, they make really good action movies, and then they put Batman at the center of it. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, like, I love that shit. That's amazing. It's super fun. But to me, Batman's a detective. Yeah. You know, and we haven't had, like, my dream. I'm going to sell my best dream. Someone's going to make it and be so upset. But I've also pitched it to everyone I know, so I'm going to share with you guys, too. My dream is for, like, HBO, because it's owned by Warner Brothers, and DC is owned by Warner Brothers, to do a Batman show.
HBO is, like, a subsidiary of Warner Brothers? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so I think it'd be really dope. Like, you have the Batman property.
Yeah, yeah.
And you have all these really great like lores of Batman, right? My goal would be to like I would just essentially make my own headcanon, but I'd make it an HBO TV show, and it would start as a goth noir because that's what Batman is. He's the number one detective, but we never see Batman be a detective. Not really.
Not in the movies where he's like
a super
solving...
spy in the movies. But I think that would encroach upon personal, and he gets there at the end of the movie. He's like, oh, that's bad because it's like invasion of personal like privacy. But I'd like to think that my Batman would never have to get that far to have that kind of awakening.
Like he would understand that from the beginning?
Yeah. Batman's not going to like an innocent person we don't know nothing about. I'm going to put a camera in the house on the off chance that someone might come in. Like, that's not Batman. But my Batman is also like, oh man. Okay. So one, he never touches a gun. Like if you've seen Batman versus Superman, potential spoiler alerts, I guess. Batman picks up a gun in that movie and I left.
Oh, you left the movie?
I stepped out. I went back to finish it. And I have since watched the whole thing. But I had to get up and physically remove myself from the space because I was upset. Look, the whole essence of Batman is that he sees his parents get shot. And so he can't deal with that. And the guns are the things that cause that. And so he wants nothing to do with a gun.
That makes sense. He's never going to pick up a gun because that's what like ruined his life.
Yeah. And he's never going to purposefully kill. Like these are two things that need to remain always and true because they're the core of what makes Batman.
Those are the rules he lives by.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I'm totally down with superheroes killing because I think some do.
Yeah.
Like I don't think Superman in a war situation would have a problem with killing because he's a warrior. He's okay with that, and I'm okay with my Superman killing when he has to. But for Batman, it's a firm stance he took a long time ago. So my Batman is a detective. He doesn't pick up any kind of guns, and he would focus in his first season on really small stories. Have you read Batman Year One?
I have it, but I haven't read it.
Or like Zero.
That's Frank Miller?
Yeah.
Because I read The Dark Knight Rises. That's also Frank Miller?
Yeah.
And I didn't like it.
Okay, that's totally fair. It is...
But I want to get around to it.
It's like... It's one of... Like, there's a lot of Batman texts I feel like you can read for the historical purposes of it.
Like,
and not have to enjoy it.
Oh, like it says something about the time it was made?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a stamp of like what we saw as heroes at that point. It is a stamp of what people were, and also like that book for a lot of people elevated the graphic novel.
Which one? The Year One or the
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Even the Dark Knight too. Like they changed the way even.
Or sorry, Dark Knight Returns is it? Yeah,
it's the Dark Knight Returns. Yeah. Well, okay, wait.
What's going on?
So. There's so many Batman stories, guys.
What are you thinking about?
I want to make sure that we're talking about the right one. So we said the Dark Knight, Frank Miller's Dark Knight, and then you've got the new one because there's 3 iterations of that book. Oh, and he just released the new one.
Oh yeah, there's like volume 3 or something like that. Yeah,
in single issue form. And I'm sure they've collected the book now, but I was getting it in single issue. But look. We'll just go Frank Miller in general.
Yeah.
People have a lot of mixed feelings about Frank Miller, and I totally understand. I can appreciate Frank Miller for what he used to do.
Oh, what he used to do for the Batman series?
Well, not even just for Batman, but for comics. Like, the man was creating some of the darkest, most twisted, but also just vividly intense comic books.
Yeah.
And while now some of his political stances might not be something you want to follow down, and certainly not something I want to read in my Batman fighting, in the same way that a lot of people don't want to read Captain America as a Hydra agent. I think a lot of people make a lot of hooey out of it. Yeah. Like, it's a book. First of all, if you don't want to read it, that's fine. But I'm interested to see the conclusion. I'm not currently collecting it, but I am interested to see, like, how do you wrap that story up? How does America's hero as basically a part of the Nazi party?
Yeah, how does it work out?
How do you even that out? What's going on there? I'm curious. It's an interesting precedent to set.
But for what Frank Miller did was he brought all these adult themes to like a comic book character when he was just like this kind of like cookie cutter, just I'm gonna take down the Joker and everything's gonna be happy. Right?
Yeah.
No? Yeah.
Well, yes and no. Like Batman, if you look at Batman from the 40s, and I won't pretend to be the most literate person on Batman. Like, I love Batman. I didn't start collecting comics until 2009. Okay. So I'm getting caught up. I'm in the process of learning. But Batman that I've read from like 40s and 30s was like really kick-ass. Like, he was the super dark kind of guy we know now. It just wasn't as violent because literature at the time wasn't to the level of violence that we got to in the 90s, which I think is what you're talking about, where we at least super like muscle on muscle, like, you know, beef head, kind of like, I'll rip your throat out kind of things. But he was that kind of creep. He was like, I am the night, I'm super dark.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what Frank did. He took it from the 60s Golden Age Batman, which when TV Batman hit, it's kind of like when Nolan's Batman hit. And by that I mean is the public consciousness of what Batman is shifted.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so that then it becomes, for the 60s, it's, oh my God, so cool. It's Batman 66 and it's awesome. And he's got the Batmobile and we're seeing like sexy Catwomen and like, it's stunning. But then after that, it becomes hokey. Like mid 70s, I want to say, maybe early 80s. Now it's a hokey Batman. And I'm like, oh, that was stuff we did as a kid. And like, why are we even into that? And
that's where, grow up and evolve.
Yeah. And so then, oh gosh.
What happened?
1989 Batman.
The Tim Burton one?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tim Burton's Batman comes out and again shifts the public consciousness. And then you have Frank Miller coming out. I think Frank Miller maybe comes out, I'm not sure when his first comic book is, but I know he's like mid 80s and then 90s is when his style kind of really takes off. And so you have all of those versions of Batman kind of accumulate to make this one in the same way that Batman continues to evolve today, from Nolan's Batman to then if you're looking at like comic books, and Scott Snyder has put a huge fingerprint on Batman. Gaiman wrote Batman's Death a couple years ago into like 2009, 2010.
Is Scott Snyder the one that wrote Death in the Family or Death of the Family?
Death of the Family.
Yeah. I like that one.
Did you like it because, and spoiler alert, because Damian dies and you don't like Damian, which is why a lot of people I've heard enjoy this one? Or is it because of the kind of gritty nature of it?
Maybe I'm thinking of a different one because I thought Death of the Family was when Robin dies.
Yeah, that's Damian.
Oh, that's Damian? That's
Damian Wayne is Robin.
I thought that was like a different Robin.
No. No. In Death of the Family, Damian Wayne, Bruce's son with Talia al Ghul, is Robin. Oh. Yes.
I'm confusing everything.
Okay, so there's Death of the Family and Death in the Family. There's two separate series. So Death in the Family is when Barbara gets shot.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not the Killing Joke? But
Damn it.
Does she also get shot in the Killing Joke?
Is that Jason Todd's death?
Yeah, I'm thinking of, I don't know what I'm thinking. I read it a while ago as well.
Okay, if you read it a while ago, then it's definitely Death in the Family. And you're right. Excuse me. Batman fans are like, Joelle, what the hell? And that's Jason Todd's death. Jason is a different Robin. He's the second Robin.
He's the one that gets like blown up in a warehouse by the Joker.
Oh, yeah.
Or like left to die in the fire and flames or whatever. Is that the one I'm thinking of? Or am I thinking of a different one where like Joker wears like the guy, his mask or his face on his head?
See, this is the problem. So Death of the Family, he has the face.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And Damian dies, I believe, in a fire. Jason Todd is beaten to death with a crowbar in Death in the Family. I'm going to fact check this so people don't yell at me later, but I'm pretty sure that's
okay. Behind you, I have the comic books over there. We'll check afterwards.
We will. But I'm pretty sure Death in the Family, Jason Todd's death, definitely with a crowbar. And then
in the warehouse with like in the middle of the desert type thing. When did you start reading comics?
2009. I was a freshman in college. It was free comic book day. My roommate was mad that I wasn't reading comics because I was really into the Batman the Animated Series. And she took me down to Chicago Comics, which is in the heart of Wrigleyville. If you're a sports fan, it's right where the Cubs play. And life was literally never the same after that. Became like a certified nerd on that day.
Oh, yeah?
That was a comic book shop I went to for the next 6 years exclusively. They got me started on my collection. I literally went into debt purchasing comics.
Yeah, I did that too. Once I started getting into comics, I'm like, $100 here, $100 there. I'm
like who even cares? It's totally worth it. Have you seen the comics? I got, oh man. So my favorite story is I got some kind of like bonus. And I went to get the omnibus for Sandman because I was obsessed with Neil Gaiman. And I was like, okay, it's time to read Sandman. So I bought the omnibus volume 1 and I read it. And then like, great, that was super fast. Let's go get 2. So I roll back and I go to get 2 and they're like, oh, hold on, we'll get down. Just take a look around the store, pick up your usuals, blah. So I'm searching around. In the back corner of the store, they have collections that they've done. So basically, people bring in like old things to trade all the time.
Yeah.
And they have a what you call a backlog section. All no, it's just a huge. It's like half the store. But in one corner, if they complete a series, they bag tag wrap it in cellophane and then put it up for a price, right? So I'm strolling through. You see $50, $60 for an entire collection is pretty good. Sometimes Sandman is up there, and I'm like, okay. but certainly not all First Prince. It's like, oh my God. And I'm like, hey, Jorge, what am I looking at here? What's going on? He was like, yeah, it's Sandman. I'm like, but not all First Prince. He's like, no, definitely all First Prince. I'm like, but not the entire collection. He's like, no, all of it.
How much was it?
$250.
That's not bad.
No, it's a steal.
Yeah.
I seen issue number 1 in mint condition go for for $600.
Wow.
So the very first issue for $600 versus the whole collection for $250.
Okay, yeah.
I panic because I don't have that money. I'm like, okay. So I bring it up to the front. He gets it down for me because he's really trying to sweet talk me into it. I'm like, oh, I can't. Okay. So we get to the front and he's like, well, we could hold it for you.
Yeah.
Like, you can't hold it. It's a whole, you'd sell it probably by the end of today. He's like, for you, we'll hold it. Okay, so I'm getting teary-eyed. I'm getting emotional because it's literally everything I want at a price. I say, hold it. I'll have the money for you next week. Next week comes some kind of disaster. Didn't have the money. Like, I had to spend the money on somewhere else. So call. I'm like, oh, guys, you might as well just put it back on the shelf because I can't. They're like, we're gonna hold this for you until you're ready to buy it.
Yeah.
They wound up holding it for like 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah, seriously. And then, so I get the money together, I go and purchase it, and it's like maybe the greatest day. I've never, like, I've collected a lot at this point, like really bad things too, like things I thought I needed in order to understand. So I got all the Infinite Crisis, like every Crisis book DC has put out. I purchased those like first.
Those aren't good?
Oh man,
I don't know, like those comics.
They're like notorious in the comic book world for being like really trash kind of comics, but they changed the lore. You know what I mean? Like certain people die or come back, or a lot of times the Crises series is when people changed, like Barry comes back or leaves. They change like who is in the suit currently, and then after the Crisis, because they're called like Infinite Crisis, Identity Crisis, Crisis on Infinite Earths. I think there's one more. And then even those will sometimes have little mini spinoffs. If you've been following Civil War, it's the same way, where it's like the main like Civil War, but then everyone's got their own little Civil War issues, but then there'll also be like a new team that was formed during the Civil War. So now they have a little collection. It's massively confusing to start your collecting in that order. And also things change so quickly in between. So you might have the whole series, but you're not reading those spinoffs and you're not around for the time that news is being dropped. So you're missing giant chunks from the story.
So it's just confusing in general?
It's maddeningly confusing, and yet it's kind of felt like an induction. Because I was following, I don't know, have you ever been to comicsalliance.com? It's an old website.
Comic what's that?
It's so they literally just canceled it or closed it down. It was purchased by Yahoo, I want to say circa 2011. It's called Comics Alliance, and it was the best. This woman used to run it. Her name was Laura, and she had all the best comic book writers. Like, I don't know where she found them, if she created them, what happened, but it was all these really great people talking about comics like every single day, and real in-depth stuff like which back issue should you read, like which characters have gone through the most transformations, to even what does this costuming design change mean for cosplayers, like really intense. Like if you were falling in love with comics, it was such a wonderful place to kind of go and read up on the industry and also the stories, and then it was all coming from fans. So it was just a beautiful experience. If you have online community, beautiful experiences like I do, if you find that kind of thing gorgeous, and they got me on to collecting and getting. So I would collect like all of those, but then also like I wanted the Batgirl run of Cassandra Cain because she's clearly the best Batgirl. Like if you move, Barbara Gordon from Batgirl to Oracle, like she just shines as Oracle. She becomes Batman's right hand, something she can never do as Batgirl. And so she's amazing. So who's your favorite Batgirl then? Well, Cassandra Cain, the assassin who was like, they refused to speak in front of her, so she would never learn language. So instead she learns body language. And so she can kill people super fast because she knows what you're going to do before you do it because your body is telling her. But then Batman gives her speech and she forgets how to use body language for some reason.
What do you mean he gives her a speech?
He gives her speech. So they work together and she learns to speak. I think maybe there's some kind of magical doodad that's in there too. I forget exactly how she learns to speak, but she learns to speak, and because of that, she forgets how to read body language. And from there, she has to relearn how to be an assassin under Batman's guise, but not kill people. It's great. She's like pre-Damian Wayne. And so these are the kinds of things. Arrow and Black Canary's run as their marriage had a comic book series, which was really cool. So I liked things that were not super, because I couldn't really get into Silver Age stuff.
I don't know any of this stuff. Did you end up you bought the Sandman thing?
Yeah, definitely. I bought it. I own it still. It is my prized collection.
You still have it like is it displayed somewhere or no?
Right now they have their own dedicated shelf. So they all sit right in the same space. And I occasionally read them. I frequently give them out to read, which people are like, "You're going to let me read your number one?" I'm like, dude, it's in really good condition. And if you hurt it, I will kill you.
Yeah,
so
I wouldn't let anyone touch it.
I don't think books were made for not reading. I don't like when books just sit there. Like, it bothers me. Because stories are literally the oldest thing we have as humans. Like, language is just the coolest thing on the planet. Like, it's the start and end of all things. Because before it, we were separated. We couldn't share our thoughts. And like, before writing, we couldn't record our thoughts. And so I find if someone took the time to write it down and get it published, not the internet. The internet, you can just type anything. It's a little less precious, but the idea that you could write it down and it's in a book and it's there for someone to consume, good or bad, like that idea was shared, and I think that that's really cool. So I don't like for my books to just sit around. Like I can share them with somebody, and I know you're responsible. I don't have a problem with it.
Okay, that makes sense, and that's very generous of you. But you said you hadn't picked up a comic book until what, 2009 in college. So why? How come? Why did it take so long?
Man,
what kind of kid were you in high school? Were you just like no, fuck comic books. Those are for like the squares or something.
So honestly, didn't think they still existed.
You didn't think comic books existed?
No, I was living in. Okay, so understand my existence. So I grew up in Ottawa, Illinois, which is a small town.
Born and raised in there.
I was born in a suburb of Chicago, and when we were 5, I moved to Ottawa, and I lived there until I was 18.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and then immediately I went to college and said never again, and I got an apartment in Chicago so I wouldn't have to come back.
You didn't want to stay in Ottawa?
Oh no.
Why? What's so bad about it?
Here's the general spiel I give people. It's 90 miles southwest of Chicago. It is all minorities. At the time I was growing up, made up less than 1% of the population.
Minorities made up less than 1%?
Yeah,
so
it's all
white
minorities,
people?
yeah. So all Blacks, Asians, Hispanics, Jewish people, Muslim people, literally anything other than white and Christian made up less than 1% of the population. So it was like, some parts of it were like really idyllic. Like, I grew up next to a state park, so it's beautiful, like Starved Rock, and there's like, I grew up on 2 rivers, so there's fishing and boating and hiking and like a beautiful lodge where we'd spend like every Mother's Day. And
was it like a wealthy town?
It's like middle of the. It's like American blue collar. Like, we had lawyers and doctors, but we also had like factory workers and truck drivers and nurses.
What did your parents do?
My parents both worked like middle management jobs. Like, so my dad was working for like a car sales company. They did like West Coast Customs would occasionally sell like parts through them.
Oh, really?
Kind of like that, yeah.
From West Coast Customs, from Pimp My Ride?
Yeah, exactly. So we would go to like car shows all the time and stuff like that. And then my mom was like a secretary, and then a college professor, and then computer repair person. I don't know. She did like everything. She had a bunch of jobs.
But dual income family. You guys you were doing fine. You were doing well.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, my parents are still together, and it's super middle of the road. Like, at least what appeared to me at the time to be all of my other friends. Like, it was just very average, kind of. It's
kind of like boringly average.
Yeah, except that I was like the only Black kid in my class, and so you would get like a lot of ridiculous questions like, can you comb your hair, and do you tan, and
like all these like racist questions.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, people, I think if they were gonna make a movie about it based off what they've heard now, it'd be like really aggressive and like a lot of hate. But that's not Ottawa at all. Like, it is mostly a blue city. Like, town, like our mayor was gay, but also like don't talk about that stuff.
Really?
So yeah, I mean,
kind of hypocritical in a sense.
It's just very northern. Like, the northern Midwest is like, we don't have a problem with anybody. We might disagree with you fundamentally, but so long as you keep it to yourself, nobody cares. So what happens is you become very repressed. You know what I mean? Like, you just try not to show you're Black too much, and you try to show that you're queer too much, and you try not to show that you exist too far outside any of the parameters. And it's not, and again, it's not aggressive or stifling. It's much smaller, and those little small like pinpricks over and over again, they like get to you over time. And so it was funny because in college, a group of friends that kind of stayed in touch via Facebook and stuff, we found out that our county is like the 8th dumbest county in America.
8th what?
The 8th dumbest county in America.
Like no education?
IQ-wise.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I know a ton of educated kids from Ottawa, but we don't stay there.
Oh, okay.
We tend to leave and go to like the next, like Chicago's right there. It's an hour and a half away. You just hop over there, you're fine. Or I know a ton of people moved to LA or New York or whatever. We just don't stay in the area.
So that's why like the smart kids get out.
Exactly. So it's kind of, I don't know.
But did you have to like, did you find yourself like kind of like acting white? Is that?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's hard to say acting white because like a lot of my
like just to fit in, like you're like, I have to be like that so I'm not perceived as different, as opposed to like being myself.
You definitely adapt certain speech patterns, and I would say, okay, I found myself less acting white because that implies that there is a right way to do things, you know?
Like
if you say like the white way, people are like, oh, properly. Because if you're just speaking a black vernacular, then it would be quote unquote ghetto. Like these are the kinds of like, so instead of, I didn't learn to act white, I learned how to make myself smaller so as not to offend anyone.
What do you mean smaller?
So
like not showy, not like standing out or anything?
No, because I did theater, so I was a real showy outy kind of kid. No, by that I mean like okay, so when you encounter a racist teacher, which again, you wouldn't, as a kid, you can't call it out so easy. It's not so easy to be like, oh, you're a racist. You understand that this teacher doesn't like you for reasons you can't quite explain.
You experienced racist teachers?
Oh, hell yeah, dude. Yes, absolutely. My 4th grade teacher was racist as hell. She hated me. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. She
what did she say?
She sabotaged the chance for me to go out of the country. She she would like tell my mother things like, oh, Joelle isn't happy and I miss seeing this happy kid, but then like kind of yell and berate me throughout class.
But why, like, how did you know like that she was racist like that? Just because she was just picking on you and not like all the other kids? Or was she
essentially okay, so the most concrete evidence I have is I was applying to go out of the country on an exchange program to Australia, right? I was really excited. I was in 4th grade.
Wow.
It's an opportunity given to like advanced kids. But I couldn't get into the advanced program at my school. I don't know why. I can't say that it was racism, but it was frustrating me because all my friends were in advanced programs. And I was like, I feel like I'm right along with them, but I'm not getting at the same pace. It was frustrating. So here comes this secondary organization. It's not part of the school. Super awesome. You need a letter of recommendation. Well, I wasn't doing at this time a lot of extracurricular activities, so I had my teachers. That's my teacher to write me a letter of recommendation to go. And because my mother is smart as hell, she said, before you ask her, she'll write you a good letter of recommendation. Here's the difference. Anyone can write you a letter of recommendation. Some might say, this person is terrible, don't hire them. If you ask a person, would you write me a positive letter of recommendation? Hopefully that person is honest and will let you know, like, yes or no, and then you can move on if you need to. So I asked her, would you write me a positive letter of recommendation? I really want to go to Australia. I think I could do some great learning over there. She was like, yeah, great. So I get all my materials together. I'm prepared to send them off, but my mother decides last minute that you're too young to leave the country by yourself. She's like, you're 9. You're not going
4th grade
anywhere.
Is really young.
It's in I feel like I'm arguing with her all over again. It's in a large group. You have chaperones. You do stay at like, other people's houses, but you can't run a company and just send off kids and like not bring them back.
I know.
People will find you. This is how I spoke with my mother at 4.
But
in
like,
4th grade.
But you think of like exchange programs like in high school or college or something, but not like 4th grade is like super young.
She's like, you're 9 and you're not going anywhere. So I said, okay. So I put the papers back and I didn't use them, right? In 6th grade, I find the papers because I'm cleaning my room and I'm like, what are these? So holy crap, I always applied to that program in Australia.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see what my teacher had written me. So I opened the letter and it was not nice things, which essentially was like, Joelle is very undeserving.
Wow.
I feel like there are kids who could do more with this opportunity. The part that I think hurt the most, because, not everyone's going to like you. It's totally fine. Maybe like, I know that I had I still have a big ego, but as a kid, like I wasn't nuanced in handling that ego. And I didn't come up in a house where you got yelled at. If you have an issue, like just talk about it and we'll figure it out.
You never got disciplined?
I definitely got disciplined. Like there were boundaries and stuff.
Yeah.
But the discipline never came in a yell, really. People would yell in frustration, but not at me.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
if there was a problem, like, first stop that,
mm-hmm.
Which was usually all I needed, because we've switched to tone, like stern voice, and I'm a squishy person. Why is that tone coming about? But then it would be like, here's what you did wrong. Here's how you're going to be punished for it, which would be usually like, no TV for like a couple days or something.
Yeah. Like sit in the corner.
Yeah. Don't do it again.
Yeah.
But no yelling. So it wasn't used to that. Or really any kind of outward aggression. Mm-hmm. It's just confusing.
So then when you open the letter?
Yeah. So when I opened the letter, the thing that hurt the most was just that she was like, I can't even say why any of these things, but I just feel like there are more deserving kids.
Wow.
And I remember that part so clearly. And to me, that was all the proof I needed. If you can't explain why, if there's nothing I've done, nothing in my character, nothing that you can, or at least something in my character that you feel comfortable saying, is like, you told a 9-year-old they couldn't like have their dream, and then you offered to write a thing to help them get their dream. Like, maybe she's just a hateful person, but to me, it felt very specialized and pinpointed. And so, yeah.
Like just to you?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. As a 6-year-old or a 6th grader, you're just reading that?
Yeah.
How did you not just like sink into just like a sadness? Or were you just like brushing it on like, fuck her?
No, I definitely didn't have that confidence. Yeah. I didn't get the fuck it attitude, as I called it, until like college.
Yeah. That's
I cared a lot, I think, early on about what people thought about me. Like, I did. I cared a lot. And so I tried to be what people wanted me to be for a really long time. And whatever that was, it meant different things for different people. So like for my mom, I tried to be a good student. And for my dad, I tried to be like funny and engaged in action movies.
You try to please everybody around you.
Oh yeah, totally a people pleaser as a kid. Absolutely.
You have brothers and sisters?
I have one. I have a little brother. I say little, but we're 22 months apart, and we're kind of raised like twins. Like we do everything together. Which is another thing if we're going to talk about like racism and what that experience is like as a kid. And again, some people are uncomfortable with the word racism, or they think it means like only evil people. It's not very good. I've seen good people say or do racist ass shit where you're just like, God damn it, okay.
But just like subtle racism.
Yeah, well, and sometimes, just subtle racism, or even subtle but with big impact a lot of the time. Like, for my brother, like he was a tall kid, but he's the only black kid in his class. So if there's trouble, like Justin was roped into it. Like whether he was involved or not, they would like call him out.
They would think he started it or had something. He started
it or was involved with it. And he's like me, he's a squishy person. Like we're both just kind of gooey filled people. So he would kind of like internalize it and be like, okay, well, then maybe I am a bad kid.
Oh, he cool. Thought he was bad because people were telling him he was bad.
Yeah, I mean, I would let Justin speak for himself. I think I as his big sister, that's what it looked like to me. That's how it felt. And it certainly had an effect on both of us because I knew what kind of kid he was. And for both of us, school kind of became secondary. Like for me, I continued to get good grades because it allowed me to do my extracurriculars. Mm-hmm. I did, at one point I clocked like 18 extracurriculars at a time. Like I would do theater and choir and speech team, yearbook, newspaper were like the 5 major ones.
You're involved in all that?
Oh, yeah.
In high school?
Consistently through high school. Wow. All 5, yeah.
So you didn't have like a life outside of high school?
I mean, that wasn't my life. It's what all my friends were doing.
That's
like,
true. That becomes
it's just like now, like, you're like, how are you doing 5 shows? It's like, oh, I'm going to go hang out with my friends and talk about TV.
That's
it doesn't
true.
It feels like work because there's a lot of research beforehand and you have to look a certain way before you get on camera and you have to remember a bunch of rules, like how do I talk and am I angled right? And it's definitely work, but
it's your
the
social
fun
life.
Part. Yeah, it's also my social life. Like, I'm going to weddings now for Afterbuzz people and welcoming babies and all kinds of crazy things because, we spend all of this time together. And I think that's kind of how I always pictured my life to be. It would just be work, but in a familial sense.
Work first and build your life around work?
Yeah, absolutely. I always wanted to be a career person. I grew up in the 90s. Ally McBeal was like everything. Like I wanted to be like a working lady.
Yeah.
Screw like having a family. Screw
like, you didn't even want a family. You were just like...
As like in high school, man, y'all can tell me. People be like, oh, because I love, my God, babies are adorable. They're so cute. So in high school, you might be like, oh my God, maybe like, oh, maybe you go to college and maybe soon find a beau and you'll have to like take your baby back. Nobody asked for this. just babies are expensive. They require a ton of selflessness that at this point in time I just do not possess. Seriously,
but like it's bad to say like, yeah, I can't be selfless right now, but like for your career, that's what you need to be, or you need to be a little bit selfish.
I feel like in your career you're allowed to be selfish because it's your career and it's how you handle it.
Mm-hmm.
I just honestly think I lack the capacity of selflessness right now. Like even like not of love. Like I love a lot of people and a lot of things, but right now making my own choices is the most important thing in my life. Like I have no idea where I want to land. I have no idea like what's kind of coming up next for me. And I don't even have the selflessness to be in a relationship right now. Like if somebody called me and was like, I really, really need you, but I had something to do, I'd be like, okay, are you dying? Is someone with you? How, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how sad are you right now? Mm-hmm. Or how big is this issue? And I'd probably be willing to help, but not at the cost of, like missing getting to this interview or doing an AfterBuzz coverage or any. Yeah, I mean, to some extent, yeah. I mean, I've got like 3 people who could call me, and if they needed anything, I would drop all of it.
Yeah.
But for everybody else, it would just be like, I'm so sorry. I'm going to call you back in like 2 hours. I have a thing to do. Don't worry. I'll be there for you, but not right this second.
Yeah. Like give me time or take some time and then I'll get back to you.
I essentially just have to schedule them in. I just have to look at the calendar and go, okay, there's like a full hour here where I'm not doing anything and I can dedicate myself fully to you. Because here's the other thing. I've seen a lot of people who work like us try to do it all.
Like family, kids, everything?
You can do family and kids and have a career. I'm talking about having family and having a career and still having a social life. Like you get to pick, I think, 2. I think it's like those diagrams of 3.
Yeah. Which is choose 2.
Yeah. You're not going to have all 3. Like it was the most popular one where it's like you can
sleep,
have stuff
friends.
on. Oh, that's a good one too.
Yeah. Or sorry, it says like sleep, friends, or good grades or something in high school or college.
Yeah. There's one that's equivalent to work, which is like it can be done well, it can be done for cheap, or it can be done
quickly.
Yes, that's it. So you can have it quick and it can be done cheap, but it won't be good. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's just like that. So
but do you have time? You still make time for your family, right? Or do you still see them?
My family doesn't really live here. I call my grandmother and my little cousin every Sunday morning. Mm-hmm. I just check in on them, see how they're doing, and then I call them. I talk to my parents like every day, but it's usually while I'm driving to and from places.
Oh, okay. So like the 20 minutes it gets to like to and from.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm really tight with my folks. So if like I don't really need to listen to Beyonce right now, like let's see what mom's up to.
Where's your brother live?
With me currently. I have to check in on him. He's just right there. I'm like, hey, you good?
Is he trying to do the same thing you're doing?
No, God. He's a sound engineer / DJ composer. He does a lot with music and sound and stuff. So right now he's studying with this Oscar-winning sound editor, and he's learning all the techniques. He's trying to get in at a studio to do like post work.
Yeah.
And in his downtime, he's composing a lot of music. He's doing scores for student films. And
wow. And so he's busting his ass too.
Oh yeah, no, totally. He's like a musical genius. He's incredible.
So he's not this guy like sleeping on your couch, like, hey, let me crash here.
No, I couldn't allow that. Once again, because it was so like when you open up your house with somebody, you have to inevitably take time to like deal with them. Are you okay? Do you have everything you need? Blah blah blah. So I can't allow for people who don't do things. Like if he was just like, I don't know, I'm just out here finding myself. Like you need to go find yourself somewhere else.
Even to your own brother?
Well, yeah. Again, if he was going to be homeless, if we're talking extreme situations, I can be selfless. Like if you're, I have nowhere to go. Okay, come in.
Yeah.
But you have like a month, and we need to start figuring out what you're going to do to get on your feet. Mm-hmm. Just because the world doesn't really care that you have family issues or whatever. I think it's important that you take care of your own. But I also think it's important that you take care of yourself and are self-sufficient. Yeah. I think a lot of times people confuse wanting to help and do good with being a good person.
What do you mean? Wanting to help whom?
I feel like a lot of times people are like, oh, well, if I do everything for everybody, right? And this is certainly, and maybe I'm projecting on all people my own issues. It's totally
what you think. This is your show.
Well, no, but it's totally possible that that's what's happening because I've been known to project before. But certainly growing up, like my goal was to please everybody, and I thought that would make me a good person, and thereby I wouldn't have to worry about anything, right? Like there's this lie we tell girls, like if you're a good person and kind of gooey and you help everybody, then magically you'll have no problems because you'll have friends and friends will do nice things for you.
And people will like you and
Exactly.
they'll enjoy you.
And so what could possibly be wrong? Like you have friends.
Mm-hmm.
You're good. Life ain't like that.
So why is that a lie?
Well, because not everyone will always have time to help you. And the more self-sufficient you are, here's why it's the biggest lie. Ava DuVernay has this really great speech called The Code of Desperation.
Ava DuVernay is the director of
Selma. And she's also doing that big Disney fantasy film.
Wrinkle in Time.
Yes.
Great book.
So she is freaking amazing. And I think it was an independent film forum, if I remember correctly. But if you type in Code of Desperation and Ava DuVernay, it'll come up. And if you need a kick in the pants about getting yourself started, it will get you there. And basically she says, look, nobody wants to work with you if you look desperate. If you're like begging and pleading and asking to do the thing that you want to do, everyone's going to kind of look down at you. Not purposely, not because people are mean or because they don't think you can do it, but because they just don't have them as much time. Nobody has enough time to start their own career and yours. Yeah. Or even to sustain their career and start yours. Like, it's exhausting work. Yeah. And if you're not even willing to put in the first steps, you're not going to get anywhere. But and once you've put in the first steps, you no longer look desperate because you have something to show. And screw you if you don't like my thing. Yeah. I made it and someone else will like it. And that's kind of, I think, the important thing for especially people who are like conditionally nice, like I was. Like, it's vital to your self-worth and health to just go out and create things and make things that are for you. And in that spectrum, like, take time for yourself. You know, if you can be as nice to everybody, but if you've left nothing for yourself, you have nothing to fall back on, nothing to rely on. And I think that's what I mean when I say I don't like, and I think there are obviously scales of it. And I used to be all the way one way, or I would do anything for anybody at any time. And now I've kind of swung all the way to the other side. Where it's like, I'm going to be really conservative about who I help. I'll probably, especially as I get older, move back to the middle and more grounded and stable in what I'm doing. But right now, I think the best thing for me is just to make sure that I'm okay so that when I'm ready to, I can have the resources to help other people. Yeah,
that's the thing. Like, as you grow up and as you like evolve, you're like, okay, I don't have time for the bullshit. Yeah, all the shit I was worrying about, all the people that I wanted to care about those people, but they didn't really necessarily care about me.
Absolutely.
So why should I give a shit about them? And that's where I try to. I don't know if I'm projecting as well. but that's where I go, like, I don't have time for all this other shit. I'm going to do my own thing for now, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
And that's how you are now, or?
Yeah, I think so. I think now I'm just trying to I'm just trying to build something that I can be proud of. I think that's kind of always how I picture a lot of things. I have a very overactive imagination. But I always pictured my 20s as building a solid foundation for something for the rest of my life. Yeah. And so what that meant for me was I wanted to move a place where I would be happy. I love Chicago. It's like the best city in the world, but snow made me so depressed.
Snow made you?
Dude, from November to like early April, it's just snow.
Really?
Oh, God. And it's so cold. And like no one, or at least I wasn't driving in Chicago because public transit was like $125 a month.
Whoa. So you just stay inside all day?
You just take public transit. It's $125 a month for public transit, which is like easily 2 car notes and insurance. So you just pay for public transit. And you can't say, like, it's Chicago. There's so much to do for free. I can't express to you how much free stuff there is to do in Chicago. So you just hop on a bus or train, but then, you know, you're getting home at 4 and you're freezing and you're cold and then you have to like try to warm up, and then the sun doesn't come up till like 9:30 the next day, and you're like, why is it so dark? And I'm so sad, and it's cold, and you can't get warm. Like, it's really a problem. And
really?
Dude, by February, everyone in Chicago is somewhat depressed.
Really?
Yeah, it's awful.
Is that like reported? Like, do you think there's like a lot of suicides over there?
I don't know if it's I've never done scientific facts.
I don't know if it's like that bad, but like I just wonder if like
I would
that's
love to do a scientific study on that. I know more suicides happen in spring, not in Chicago, but globally, just because the happiness when you're depressed is it's crazy, and so the
difference in between like, hey, I'm supposed to be happy, but I'm not.
Right. The sun is out, and there are flowers, and why can I still not be happy?
Never heard that.
Yeah, but. But I know for me and my friend group, like it was by February, we were all just mentally exhausted from trying to keep like everything livened up. Like the New Year's, there's like really nothing to look forward to. Like if you're perpetually single, like Valentine's Day is just a second slap in the face and it's cold. And then like March comes around and you have St. Patrick's Day, which is huge in Chicago. We dye the river green and like scores of people come in. But that's really just drunk and it's not helping the situation. It really takes till about May for people to start livening up. And so I had to get out of there. Like I was like, I cannot stay in the city. It will kill me. And I wanted to live in a place that had like
sunny, good weather.
Well, not even that, but like it had an atmosphere of we're here to get stuff done, but we're here to have fun too.
Yeah.
And I don't think that there's a better place than than LA. Because we do know how to have a good time. While we get work done. It's incredible to me. No. While we'll be like, oh God, this is awful. Thank God we work on a beach. Like, just grab a daiquiri.
Yeah.
It's going to be fine, guys. You know, New York is already asleep, so you don't have to report to that office for like a good 12 to 13 hours. We've got some time to think. Like, the fact that the sun sets here, it's the best. New York people got to be up like crack a dawn ass early. They're figuring stuff out. It's cold. You know, it's literally all work right up until the end of the day and sometimes later because Californians are slow and it's a lot to do.
Slow? What do you mean slow?
Because have you ever taken a look at the difference between like what New York business attire is versus like Los Angeles business attire?
Los Angeles is like jeans and a t-shirt.
Yeah.
New York is business suit.
Exactly.
Old school 50s, like a John Hamm, Don Draper type stuff.
Right. In New York, business casual might mean you don't need a tie.
Yeah.
You know, you might maybe wear brown slacks and like a button up. You know, no jacket. It's cool. We're relaxed. Like out here that can mean khaki sandals and like you're in a button up, but it's not currently buttoned up.
It's like a polo.
Right, exactly. That's business casual. Where you're like, is it stuffy? Because we don't do that. Like that's gross.
What do you mean? What's stuffy?
Stuffy, like, is it high collar? Am I tight? Is it like?
Oh, is it claustrophobic type thing? Yeah.
Am I in any way confined that I do not wish to be?
Yeah.
LA can't stand that stuff. We're like, do we need to go outside for a walk?
Yeah.
Like, cool. Like, I had a walking meeting with my boss the other day because he was like, God, I can't. You want to just like walk around the campus? Okay, whatever.
Like outdoor meetings.
Yeah,
and shit.
we just need to talk and walk it out. Like Silicon Valley is pretty accurate of like how the tone of business is out here.
Yeah.
But in New York and even to some extent in Chicago, you can't do that, and I find it a little bit frustrating. We can have fun while we work. And if you're a person like me, again, like me, that just wants to live at work, then that's a pretty good benefit.
But you didn't come out here till after college? Because like I think you still went to college in Chicago, right?
Oh yeah.
So you never thought of leaving a college outside of high school? Or right out of high school?
Well, right out of high school, I thought about moving out here. And my mother, who once again is super protective.
She's like, no.
She was like, what will you do? And I was like, I don't know. I think I'll just get my hands dirty and see what I can do. And like, I'm just ready to go live. Like I wanted to move out at like 13. Like I have a very vivid memory of being like, I'm pretty sure I could survive on my own. My mom was like, you have no idea what is out there. And I'm like, yeah, but I feel pretty ready for it. Like I'm ready to go. Like to tell you how like tacky I was, like my senior quote is like, it's from Queen Elizabeth. And I was not born. I was prepared for this. Like I was just real ready to go because I just felt so confined. I felt like I couldn't. There were no job opportunities in entertainment, and I knew that I definitely wanted to do something entertainment-wise. And
you wanted to be in the entertainment business?
God, yeah. When I was 2, I like looked at a TV screen. I was like, Mom, how do I get in there? She was like, you could be on TV. And I'm like, I want to be in the box, though. And I
She's like, my kid is crazy.
Right. Well, no, I think she understood from a pretty early age that that's what I want to do, because she took me to like early auditions and all kinds of stuff, because I was an adorable kid. Like,
oh, you tried to be like a kid actor.
Yeah. Well, I tried to be like a kid, like model. Like I had big puffy cheeks. They thought I would do like catalog for a bit. And then
they had that in Chicago, or not Chicago, but Ottawa.
Yeah. Well, no, Chicago. My mom would drive me.
Oh, she would drive you to Chicago. Wow.
I did ballet lessons and tap and all this other stuff, but I had like, it just wasn't working. Like I had like attitude kind of things, and my mother was like always working, and so we both kind of dropped it. Like if it was something I really pursued, she'd have been like, let's make it work. But
did you ever get anything, like any, like you were in a magazine or something?
I did like some newspaper stuff, but nothing like big anyone would remember. I think my grandmother has clippings, but
nothing where you're like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do.
No. They learned I had the gift of gab really early, so they would put me on like debate team and all this other stuff. Speech team, so I'd be like reading prose or verse for competitions, and all kinds of stuff. And then I did acting for a bit. I actually went to college for acting until I was like, this is competitive and really mean.
It's not the acting you enjoyed or
okay, no, theater, like in high school, if you go to a place where no one knows if they're going to be doing this forever, it is just fun. Like we built our own sets, so I learned how to use power tools, which is something my parents were like, whoa. I was a clumsy kid, so they were like, never put power tools in her hand. And then I had this amazing teacher, Ms. Williamson, who was like, you're going to learn power tools. And I said, I don't know if people appreciate. She's like, here's a drill. Make the holes. Just start. And seriously, no other further instructions. She was like, you need to know these for your life values. I talk fast now. I talked maybe twice as fast when I was a kid, and had a lazy tongue on top of it. So all the enunciation you're getting now sounded more, I can't know if I can even do it anymore. Something like, I really have to go to the bathroom and I just need to go right. And it would just be like, zero tongue.
Yeah.
So she took an entire summer off to teach me how to enunciate and speak. And
that teacher did?
Yeah.
Whoa.
She took an entire summer where we would just meet like 2 or 3 times a week, and we would go over like enunciation techniques and warm-ups and vocal cord stretches and all different kinds of things, because she was like, I know you want to act, but no one can understand you, so I can't do anything for you there. And she signed me up in extra programs, and then from there I kind of, like I always do, like I didn't want to I don't like rules very much. Yeah. You know, again, anything confining, anything I don't want to do, I'm just like, how do I get out of it? So like my school, they were like, okay, Joelle, so we know you're really into this acting and English thing, because I took every English class my college or my high school had to offer. Yeah. And then they were like, but you have to finish a math. And I was like, I did 2 already, and I feel strongly that that's enough. The state wouldn't let us get out of it. So they're like, okay, if you take this math, which is technically less than the math you already took, we will let you go out into the world and you can do independent study, which was the best.
What do you mean? This is in high school?
Yeah. So they let me do an independent study, which is you create your own course.
What? Why?
Why? Because I didn't want to take any more classes, essentially. I'd taken all the English classes we had to offer. So I was done writing and reading, which was the only thing I was really interested in at the time, because my school didn't offer like performance classes. So I was doing, it was either take more math and like history stuff, for which I was like, I was already like, history was so boring because I had studied so much of it before. Oh, okay. So I would be like, I already know this, and what you want me to do is memorize dates, which I don't do. Yeah. I'm really bad at it. I can tell you about like King Henry, like start to finish, his whole life story, but I couldn't tell you the day he was born because I don't care. And so they were like, okay, we don't teach theater classes, but if you want to design one where you're learning technique, you can do that.
You designed a class?
Yeah.
Wow.
So like I picked a teacher. I picked a time, and it was great because they let me do it fourth period. That was our lunchtime. So third period, I was in newspaper, which I was running. So I just got to hang out in the back and do the newspaper. A lot of times I was just watching YouTube. Oh,
so you weren't running the newspaper? You just let other people run the newspaper?
I was an editor on the newspaper. Tyler, who's now a teacher and super awesome, he was running the paper, and then I was running yearbook. Oh, okay. So we would like sometimes do things together, and then I would like go over and like approve a layout or something. But then fourth period would happen. That was independent study. My teacher wasn't. She was like, you know what you're doing, just turn in your stuff. So that wasn't a free time to just roam around. Then I had creative writing with the same teacher that was running the newspaper, who was like, just go work on the newspaper. And then sixth period, was that a separate English class? That was our yearbook time frame. So essentially 4 hours in a row senior year where I was just by myself doing whatever I wanted to, which was usually, if it wasn't reading or being on YouTube, it would be like that was essentially it. We just
watched. You're just reading. But you were still reading, like doing something, not just like wasting time.
Oh, I was watching Broadway performances. I was learning the Elton John catalog. Which was a huge part of that year, was me learning all the Elton John songs because I had fallen in love with him. And my parents were into like Motown. And so like in high school, I had a bunch of friends who were like, you've never heard of Pink Floyd? And I was like, no, my parents didn't. They were like, sit down and listen.
Did you listen to Pink Floyd?
Yeah, totally. Love The Wall. It was amazing. What else?
So at a high school, like what were the plans outside of high school? Like,
man, I really wanted to go to NYU and perform and be an actress that was it. That was like the dream where I was going to go.
That was the dream. Did you apply?
Oh yeah, I applied everywhere. And because I didn't care about my grades too much, out of that solid C average. And I just wasn't a great performer. Again, being a great performer requires a level of selflessness that people think of actors as like these people with huge egos. They're not. because you don't have the capacity to hold an ego and care what people think about you and transform into another person.
Oh, because like to be another character, you have to let go of that ego.
To be a really great actor, you cannot care what people think about you, because then you're concerned about, like, I'd be concerned about Joelle, but not about myself as, like, I don't know, a great character. Elizabeth Bennet.
Yeah.
Like if I was Elizabeth Bennet and I had to be like super rude to people, I couldn't be worried about how like Ashley from Fifth Period feels about me doing anything. Like, it's just not going to work. You have to fully immerse yourself into the character, and you have to allow yourself to look kind of weird or different even than you like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In order to embody this other person.
Or and just feel uncomfortable for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. And live in that moment of and be honest about it.
Yeah.
And back then I really didn't have that kind of, again, I didn't have the fucking in my system yet. I didn't have like, I don't care what people think. Like, I just be myself and I'm comfortable with who I am. I hadn't developed that sense yet. And so I just was not very good.
So did you applied to NYU? Did you have to like audition for that?
Oh yeah, I auditioned for NYU, Boston State University. Oh God, so Northwestern.
All these schools you applied and then you go to the auditions?
You kind of do them simultaneously, almost. Like, you apply and it's not like, oh, we like your application, come audition.
It's not like
just
that.
audition. Because I mean, if for a really great performer, like, I don't care if you got Fs, like, get in here. We'll use you.
Okay, yeah.
You know?
But you felt like you didn't do those auditions well?
I know I didn't do those auditions well.
Why,
yeah, no, they were bad.
like during or afterwards, you're like, fuck, I didn't do well.
BSU I knew during, like very actively as I'm giving the audition, I'm like, get me out of here. It's so bad. Yeah, it was a Shakespeare audition.
But
and
how do you know? Like, what do you feel?
Oh, you feel yourself not doing iambic pentameter, and you're like, the Shakespeare school will not want this. This is really bad version of this speech. And especially because I did one that I saw a fellow student do, and she was just killing it. And I thought that because I had seen her performance and I knew it from her reading it over and over again. I thought that maybe that would help me, but it just jacked me up because I was just like, I'm not as good as her.
Yeah.
Now my iambic pentameter is off and it's awful.
You can't see other people around you like do better because then you get down on yourself. That's what I feel like when people are like around like the same like level as I am, doing better than myself. I just feel like more down. I'm like, fuck, I'll never be that good.
That's something I've been kind of thinking about lately because I feel like, especially at this level in our fields, like we do stuff for like really well-known internet outlets, right? And so it's pretty good. Like, if we were to talk to other friends, like, I know my friends from home are like, I can't believe you're doing these things. It's really cool.
Your friends from
Ottawa. Yeah. And it is cool, and I love it. And I'm super gracious to be doing it. But I certainly see other friends who are like, damn, they just got picked up by a network.
Yeah.
Okay, crap. What did they do that I didn't do?
Yeah.
How can I do more? And it's a thing I've been thinking about a whole bunch lately because working for like 4 really great networks, I'm seeing a ton of people go on and do great things or get invited to certain events or parties. And, you know, it's hard, but I think the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I just want to run my own race. Like, I can't, like, trying to keep up with everybody. It's exhausting because that one win doesn't necessarily mean a new height for them. Like, you know, like, I know certainly like, I don't know if this sounds pretend. Like, I went to Rogue One, but it was just such a fluke to the premiere of Rogue One.
Yeah.
And it was such a fluke that it happened. But people were like, who do you know?
Yeah.
What did you do? Because it's major. Like, it's Rogue One. Like, it's the first movie from Star Wars of its kind. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, oh, dude, my friend just happened to know a person. And
I
didn't accomplish anything to get here. I feel lucky to be here, but I didn't do, there were no steps that could have gotten me to here. And I think that is a lot of what succeeding out here is just
knowing somebody, getting invited to the party.
Yeah.
But you like to think the party is bigger than it is.
I think some people do. I don't mind. I prefer the small parties, I guess.
No, but I'm saying like you, like when you see somebody go to the premiere or something, like in your mind, it's bigger than what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like in your mind, it's like, wow, they must have did something amazing where they got invited. And it's like, no, really, I just knew somebody.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And then I feel like I get stressed out. We're like, fuck, why is he doing so much better than I am?
Yeah.
He's like 2 years younger than me or three years around my age and whatever. And it's like, I have to like learn not to be stressed out about that. It's like, yeah, we are doing our own race. We're at our own pace at the race we're doing. It's not even a race. It's like it's what we're doing.
Do you like Mark Maron?
Yeah.
He's like my favorite.
Yeah.
He's like the poster child for me for like, just do you. Like it'll be fine. Like if maybe you're supposed to hit success at 50 and then just be a total straight G about it.
Because that's what he is now.
Yeah, no, totally. Mark Maron had like mild success. Like he's a comedian on all these tours, but his friends go on to SNL. They make major movies. Like they're getting Oscar noms. And he's like, I'm still just a comedian on the road doing my thing.
Podcast.
I kind of enjoy this podcast. I guess I'll do that. And he does that for like a year and a half, I'd say, before he finds his voice and his niche market. And now he's like the biggest thing for podcasts. He's like it's like him and Doug Benson are like and maybe I put Kevin Smith in that category too.
Yeah,
are like,
they really like changed the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jimmy Pardo too.
That's also totally fair. Yeah.
Because he was one of the first ones.
Yeah,
he always like makes the jokes. He's like, "Fuck Mark Maron." I was before Mark Maron.
It's very. I'm sure the fact that Maron's following tends to be pretty hipster heavy does not help.
Yeah.
Just one of these hipsters made him famous. Damn it.
No, but honestly, Mark Maron's one of the reasons I wanted to create a podcast.
Me too.
Where like I interviewed people and stuff like that. And I'm like, fuck, I want to be like Mark Maron.
It's like when people ask what I want to do, I'm like, I want to be a combination of Oprah, Mark Maron, and James Lipton. James Lipton runs Inside the Actors Studio.
He still does it?
Yeah. Every once in a while, you'll get a special on God, what is that channel? It starts with an H. I can't remember.
Like on a cable channel or
it's definitely a cable channel where it premieres. God, why can't I remember the name of it? It's Bravo. It starts with B. Oh, okay. It's Bravo. And it's like I love watching his interviews. I love them. And his are so research intense and super heavy. And he's going back and like asking people like that they haven't talked to in years to try to get a full picture of the person, which I find exciting. And I like the way Mark is unapologetically himself at all times. And if he doesn't like a person, it shows. But I like that honesty. I feel like we don't live in a space that's honest enough to always do that. And Mark has made his garage a space where he's like, look, if I'm going to geek out about the president being here, this is my space and I get to do that. And if I don't like this comedian dude, but I want to give him space on my show, I'm still going to have him here, but I'm not going to I'm not going to pretend like I like him. Yeah. And we're just going to have a conversation.
That's how I felt like his initial episodes were. Like before he became big, because I didn't start listening until like he was almost at like 100 episodes in. But I felt like a lot of people didn't either because he's at like 300 now.
Yeah, I would say I think I jumped in like late 100s, like maybe 150 in there. And I was just immediately taking him back. Like you feel like you're in somebody's living room and it's so cozy and he's sometimes so unnerving. And yet the way he's able to really dive into who that person is and what excites them, it's fascinating. And I like that. And then from Oprah, I like that she makes people feel comfortable. Like Oprah isn't going to expose you for something that you're not, but she will push you to try to be as honest as you can be.
During her interviews, she does that?
I think so, yeah. Like when she did a special with Lindsay Lohan not too long ago. And no matter how you feel about Lindsay, I think some of you has to feel some sympathy for her. She's like been used between her two parents and a giant corporation, i.e. Disney. And she never really got a chance to figure out who she was as a person. But when she's with Oprah, like a lot of people, like Dr. Phil, I've seen like try to take advantage of people. Like Dr. Phil is really cruel in his interviews. He doesn't really care. He's there for the sensationalism of it. Whereas I feel like Oprah is there for the best story. And while that may not always mean your shiniest moments, she's also not here to shame you. And I don't like shaming people. I'd much rather people feel like what they tell me and or my audience is something that will help all of us, or at least will enrich our lives for the knowing of it.
Yeah. That's what I like about like Mark Maron too. Like he creates a comfortability in the room where it's like, hey, I am comfortable enough to share my life with other people, even if like a lot of people are listening. Like I don't care that like I don't know. I just like how like they feel comfortable.
Have you seen his garage space?
Yeah, it's tiny.
So not only is it tiny, it's so cute, and I like the way he like kind of glass domes certain things.
What do you mean?
I think like the president left a cup or a pen or something. He just put a
Yeah.
dome over it, and he was like, and there.
Yeah.
That's where the president was. And that's really cool. Like, I like that it's grown beyond, like, first it was like a place for him to record, like his garage.
Yeah.
And then it became like a safe space where he could come and rant, but also like have really great conversations. And now it's almost become like a museum as well, like with him holding all these different items and the gifts people bring by or fans send in, kind of decorating the place. And I like that feel. The Schmoes set has a similar feel.
What's that? Like the
like it was like a place to record, and then it kind of became like a nice home, safe space where like you guys could have these. It's so funny knowing behind the scenes now. Like you have these epic fights on camera, but you can't believe the love like once those cameras are turned off.
Why you think the fights are real on camera?
At Schmoes?
Yeah.
When I'm watching, like it's hard to tell. I think as a viewer, you're like, man, maybe these guys have some animosity for each other, even if it's not all of the like yelling, screaming rage we see from, just the computer. Sometimes you think like like it'll be a side look or the way they say something, and you're like, you start reading a little more into it. You're like, maybe they don't really like each other back there. But then to come and meet everybody and realize there's like not even an ounce of any kind of aggression or upset, like no conflict with anybody. It's just all love, and it's kind of beautiful. And now the Schmoes, like you guys have these like great posters and pictures and stuff of people, and you're constantly like updating and stuff. Like I feel like those are sacred spaces. Like when you imbue a place with entertainment or arts, for especially over a period of time, it becomes in many ways sacred. And that's just all from my theater background. Like
that makes sense. Yeah.
I had a really great teacher. So she once had us come on the stage, and we were seniors, right? And so we'd been doing this for a long time, and we all came up together, and a lot of the kids in my friend group went to church together as kids. So we're like buddies since like 5.
Yeah.
And she was there. She went to their church. So I wound up going there in junior high and becoming a part of that clique a little bit. And Williamson gets up and she's like, okay, so you're standing on the stage. I want you to look out at all of the seats in the audience. And I want you to think about every person who's come before you. Anytime you've seen a performance here, any kind of lecture even, it stays here in these seats, and it becomes a part of the magic and a part of the theater, and thus a part of you. And when you leave, part of you stays here with it. And because of that, it becomes a sacred and special place, and a place that you're always able to return to.
Yeah.
I freaking love that. I live for that shit.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's so good, and it's so true.
That it has to be a safe space where people like feel comfortable enough.
I mean, one would hope that it's a safe space, just because for me, all a safe space means is that the people in here will respect you while you're in here, and you're expected to respect the people in here while you're here. Not all theaters are safe spaces. No. Some, are places of criticism and cruelty, but they're all magic in that blood, sweat, and tears have been left here. And because of that, there's a kind of energy that's left behind, and it's something that's special.
That makes sense. That's how I feel about the Comedy Store.
Oh, dude, totally.
Have you ever been?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went once. I felt I thought I would feel the same way about the Viper Room, but I didn't.
What's the Viper Room?
The Viper Room, it's where it's a bar on Sunset, and it's River Phoenix died outside of the bar. Johnny Depp owned it at one point, and it was this like great rock and roll like grunge hall. Like everyone went and played there, and it's a tiny room. You can maybe fit like 35 to 50 people in, like max 50. 50 would feel like a lot. Small stage, like teeny tiny, but man, when it bangs, like you feel it because it's a small space, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of, I feel like maybe it would have felt that way like circa 93, but like now it just feels drained. Like it just feels kind of processed.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe if I went on a different, more banging night.
Maybe. But you've been to the Comedy Store before, and you felt that same. That place has history. It's
totally.
Everyone's been there. Who's anybody? And you just feel that in the room.
Yeah.
What you're talking about.
Yeah, and what I like about the Comedy Store is it's the best magic. Like I think when people think of theaters, they're like kind of like it's like these grand kind of palatial places, but the Comedy Store, it's smaller, I think, than you imagine, and that intimacy is kind of, again, what adds to the allure.
The allure that you love of
yes,
the theater.
Absolutely.
But I want to ask about how did you first get to Schmoes? Because I know you from Schmoes, and I don't know much about you. You kind of just like appeared. I'm like, hey, that's Joelle.
It's like a really weird. I don't know if it's weird. It feels weird. So I was working at Black Hollywood Live with Daryl Christensen, who is one of the producers of that network. And Daryl comes to me. He's like, Joelle, do you have a reel? And I didn't, because I'm me. And I was like, no. He's like, why? Do you not have you do 20,000 shows. You go make a reel.
Yeah. You can put together 3 minutes of something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So my friend Allison was gracious enough to do it for free because I suck at editing. I have no timing or rhythm at all.
Wow.
And she was like, let me put this together. So I watched the clips. We took a day. I handed it over to Daryl, and Daryl's like, great, I'm going to send it to the Schmoes guys. I guess they're looking for a new talent. And I was like, cool.
Oh, he told you that?
Yeah.
What did like Schmoes put out like a casting call or something?
I know Daryl worked with those guys when their home was at Afterbuzz.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Was that like season 3 or iteration 3 or 2, something like that?
Phase 4? I don't know. I got to go back and look.
Yeah. So when they were briefly at Afterbuzz, that's where Daryl met them. And so I just know that they were looking for more talent. So Daryl reached out, and then he was like, yeah, they like you and one other person, so they're going to get back to me and let me know. And then I'm not sure who, if it was Mark or Christian, or I don't know. So they were just like, hey, we like what you're doing. You should come on by. And
Based on the reel?
Yeah.
Wow.
My guess is this was before I knew Emma Fyfe was working at Schmoes Know. We were doing the panel together for Star Wars Rebels.
On AfterBuzz?
Yeah. And she was gracious enough to give me this kind of like really great intro where she was like, tell them what you do and stuff. And so it was like a perfect 10-second clip of like, I'm Joelle and I'm a Hufflepuff. And I like, here's all of my nerd knowledge. I said Hufflepuff, but I meant Ravenclaw. Please know that, guys. It's my deep secret shame that I might be a Hufflepuff.
Wait, so Emma was already on the show, but only for the Schmoedown stuff?
I think she was doing both, right?
I don't remember.
I don't remember when she starts for Schmoes.
Or maybe she started on Schmoes and then like, hey, no, actually,
Did she start with the Schmoedown?
I think she started with the Schmoedown, and then she showed up on the show.
Yeah.
So you're saying that they recognized her in your
in my reel,
yeah.
And I'm not sure if that helped. I think it probably did because it was like a great little nerdy bit back and forth, and we had a good conversation, and then I threw in something. I host a show with Tron Von Garcia, who's like a comedian, and we can't talk to each other without fighting. Like everything we do turns into like really epic fights. And so I put that in there, and I guess that kind of worked for the aesthetic of the show. And the rest is kind of history. And then Mark was like, I think being Mark, because he's just like the nicest guy, and he was like, yeah, if you want to come back to the show, like just come back. And I was like, I kind of want to live here. Like, I love the nerdy movie talk. I learned so much from you guys. I have a good time. And he's like, yeah, seriously, whatever. So now I just kind of show up and I'm always like, I can sit in the background or I can just listen. Like, I'm happy to do whatever. And Mark is just super dope and always gives me an opportunity to come on the show. And so the rest has kind of just been history. I've just been having a really good time.
Wait, but before they saw your reel and then they called you over.
Yeah.
And then you met them? Or you didn't meet them?
I guess we did do it. I forgot. Yeah, we met at a Panera.
Of course, Panera.
Because that's their spot.
They wanted to meet you, make sure you're not like crazy, like maybe you can handle the show.
Also, they were picking up their sandwiches, so it was a quick stop.
Yeah.
So we got Panera and we talked for maybe like 20 minutes about like, what are you excited to see? And I was like, Power Rangers.
Was this Mark and Christian or just Mark?
It was Mark and
Are you blanking? Copster, Ken?
Copster. Sorry, Copster. I love you so much. It's just
he's not gonna listen to this.
The name.
You can say whatever you want about
I feel like this is how we get to test Copster to see if he listens or not. Be like, so anything happened with you in the interview with Copster that you remember? No. So they were there, and of course Copster was super excited about Power Rangers too. So we were talking about it. I have not talked to him about it since though. I don't remember how he felt about it. Yeah, do you remember how he felt about Power Rangers?
He was indifferent.
That's the appropriate way to feel about that movie.
I'll let him talk to you about it.
We'll get into it. But we were both excited and then both disappointed. But yeah, and they were like, cool. And then we ran into each other a couple of times after that at different screenings and stuff. Guardians of the Galaxy was probably the biggest one where we saw each other.
Oh, you guys ran into each other before you appeared on the Schmoes?
Was that before? No, that had to be after because I did that show with you guys, the Guardians of the Galaxy show. So yeah, but I mean, it was weird because we kind of traveled in similar circles because we're reviewing movies, but we had never been like officially introduced. So that was the Panera meeting as our first meeting, and then I want to say like 2 weeks later, I was on the show.
On the Guardian show, or
what was our first show?
I don't remember your first show.
Oh, my first show, I was just a guest. So I wasn't guest hosting. I was just sitting on Mark's right.
Oh, you're just like, hey, let's meet Joelle.
Yeah. It's one of those. Yeah, and I don't even remember.
Like the topic.
It was the first time the first time they had phone calls back.
Oh, okay.
On the show. Yeah. That was my first episode, which was great because the phone calls were amazing.
When like the phone calls weren't working.
Yeah.
And, like, we barely got someone through.
We had Justin from Chicago who was going to a Christian school. And we were all like, what's happening, Justin? To study film? Yeah. That guy was great. I really appreciated that call.
Is that the one who asked like to take a Chinese or take a person to a Chinese place on the first day?
Is that appropriate?
Yeah.
He was the best. He didn't even know it, but he was comedy gold.
Yeah. So that was your first show.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then I came back for Lego Batman because I knew I was super pumped for that. I think I went back for Guardians of the Galaxy and Alien. Yeah.
Did you listen to what? Did you listen to the fan reaction right away, or did you like care? Like people followed you, and people were like, "Hey, I liked you on the Schmoes" or anything?
God, the first like 3 episodes, the fan reaction was insanity, and it's funny because I kept going on with Mark. I'm like, "Your fans are the nicest people ever," and he was like, "They're all nice." Because I mean, if you guys the internet, like 100% nice it's a rare gem. No one had contacted me with cruel things, and so that was what I was talking about. Like people had reached out and they were just like so supportive and really excited and sent me kissing memes or whatever. And, it was amazing. The
hardcore fans would be like, "You were the best on the show." There's like a hardcore like select group of fans and like create memes and say like, "Hey, you added to the show. You were great."
These things, and it was wonderful. I remember, and when Andrenko was there for the first time, and he gave me the
the Joelle or High Water.
Meme, which was it remains like maybe the highlight of my career so far is someone turning that into a meme. It was great.
Like right away, before the show
ended, they were like, "Got it." And I was like, "You guys are so brilliant." And so and ever since then, like there's some, as always, there's some haters. There's some people who don't appreciate that I don't have the film gravitas of a one. Like I don't know.
Oh, you mean
who's the guy who always wins? Adam?
What do you mean? The one wins trivia?
Or
Throwdown? Like a Jeff Snyder or a Mark Riley or somebody? Or John Roca?
Or Bibiani, any of those guys.
So they might be upset. Like, Joelle doesn't know what she's talking about because she hasn't seen like all these movies from the 50s.
Joelle knows nothing about movies. So, like, I graduated with a degree in cinema, but okay.
So you've seen those comments where like people are like...
Sure. I mean, I know some people don't like to scroll through comment sections, and I'm not gonna lie, it can be challenging. But I also think that there's a lot of times valid things. Like for one thing, like people are like, "Oh my gosh, well, your giggle is so much, like it's extra." Some people think it's cute, some people like it, some people think it's too much, and it just means that like when I'm on the show the next time, like I'm listening a little bit more for it. Like, am I cutting people off? Because that's kind of rude. I don't want to like be so kind of obnoxious at it, even though they're genuine laughs. Like you can control it. Or sometimes it'll be like. I don't know, other things. I have like friends who will watch for me and they'll be like, "That color is awful. Please never wear it again." I'm willing to take all forms of criticism.
But you let it get to you, or you're like it's in your head?
Man,
and you're like,
it has before, certainly. It can. I mean, it's exhausting if you get like 8 in a row or like, "Fuck Joelle, why is she here? God damn it again!" And you're just like,
"Oh."
You're just like, dang, it takes the wind out of you a little bit, especially because you put in a lot of time to it. But at the same time, I understand, like, I don't like everybody that, like, when I'm watching, like, my shows on YouTube or my shows on TV, like, I just don't like everybody. I don't have the capacity for it. So I can't be upset that someone doesn't enjoy me. That's okay. I think the best thing that I can do is be myself and be open to, not cruelty, but criticism, definitely. There's, sometimes people are just going to be mean to be mean. It's totally fine. I could take it. If I couldn't, I don't think I should be on the internet.
Of course.
At least in this capacity. I don't think like the layman's person who's using Twitter should have to deal with this. But I think if you put yourself out there as a host and as other things, you have to expect that kind of reaction.
Yeah, because if for like however many people that don't like you, there are a bunch that do. So it balances out. Like,
and they're really vocal. And the best thing is like, I think it's like if you guys are checking your comments, it's definitely about when you check them. Because like the immediate reactions are almost always going to be pretty great. You know what I mean? Like unless something was awful, like immediate reactions are usually pretty like, "Oh wow, really cool, love it." Then you'll do like the 48 hours afterwards, and then it'll be like hate, so much hate. But if you wait like a week after that, things even out because the majority of like the hard fans have seen it, and then you can get a full judgment of like what does everybody think. And usually those really hateful comments will be like lower down at the bottom.
They get buried underneath the likes and the dislikes.
Because it's like 3 other people agreed. They're like, "Yeah, fuck that chick." But for them, like if you look at the last episode, like it's really great because the first like I want to say 6 comments or something are like, "This was just a great show and we love everybody here." Like calling almost no one out specifically, just like we love the cohesion of the show. And I was like, wow, that's really awesome to be part of a team that like brings as much joy and excitement.
It's an online community that people enjoy.
Yeah, but for the most part, no, I love like fans and fan reaction. Like I said, AfterBuzz, like I love hearing what people saw on the show that I didn't. I love like I'm I'm okay at catching Easter eggs. And some of y'all like don't require a second viewing, which is just incredible to me, where they're like, here, and here. Did you see it? I'm like, no, but thank you for pointing it out. I'm going to try to look for it the next time I watch it.
That's the internet at its best. Yeah.
Definitely. And to talk with people, like the whole reason I like is like just like talking about nerdy stuff, like full stop. That's how I got into this. I would talk about it at work. And then one of the producers at Afterbuzz and I used to work for a production company. And she was like, I feel like you could do a show there. And I was like, do you think? And she was like, you should just come out and see what happens. That's the only reason I got started in this.
And in the Afterbuzz show, the show thing?
In any kind of hosting capacity. It was just because I really like nerd stuff and I like talking about it. I started off interviewing comic book creators for Black Girl Nerds podcast. And from there, it just kind of boiled into like my favorite interview maybe ever is oh gosh, I am so bad at names.
You don't remember who?
No, Louis Tan, who's so amazing. If you guys have seen Iron Fist, he plays the drunken monk in episode 8.
I haven't seen that. Haven't heard good things.
It's fine.
So
you
I
don't need to watch all of it. You can literally skip forward to the fights. If it's Iron Fist in anyone, keep following. Unless it's episode 8 where he fights the drunken master. This is Louis Tan, and he is the best. I love Louis. He had auditioned to be Iron Fist originally, and they said no because they're stupid.
Is that the guy in the memes, or it's like what Iron Fist should be?
Yes.
And then what Iron Fist is?
Yes, that's Louis Tan.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And he's like amazing. And so I think he might be on next season of Into the Badlands. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I support him and promote him in every way I possibly can because I think he's the next big thing. Like he's an amazing fighter, but he's also like super like Hollywood hunky. He just is. He's like a great physique for Hollywood. And he can do all these different accents, and he's like a very global person. I think he could do really good. But I got to interview him for Popcorn Talk, and oh my God, what an interview. Like it was he's just funny and personable, and we had a really good time doing it. And that is kind of all I want out of this, is just to be able to engage fully in the nerd culture. So when we get fans talking to us and they want to engage fully too, like it makes it worth it. Because otherwise I'd just be talking to a camera, and that's boring as hell.
Yeah. You need the audience to like engage and everything.
Absolutely. Yeah, shows are nothing without fans. Like, and I've done shows that don't have fans yet, where you're struggling to build it, or maybe they haven't found that TV show yet, or sometimes you just get put on a bad show and you're like, okay, I got to make it work. I got to pretend to be excited about it. But when we do shows like Supergirl on Afterbuzz and the fans come in like lesbians and like all these other things, we have inside jokes with those fans because they're there every week. So if you're listening, alien sex, so you know, like it becomes a culture and it becomes a center, and I think that's kind of always what I wanted to be a part of. But
it's like you said, like you don't jump in the water with the fans right away. Like you have to build that audience. Like you have to like put in the work and do work on the show, because like in the first few episodes you're talking to like 20 people or 100 people or whatever.
Well, one of the great things about Kevin Undergaro's structure is that he makes us test our shows before we put them out, which I think is great, because I know a lot of people, and it's natural. You're like, I made something, I'm ready to put it out there. You want to put it on YouTube, you want to go. But it can take a while for a show to find its rhythm. How do the hosts work together? What topics are we comfortable talking about? Which topics kind of work for us? Do we have the knowledge? Because it's not just what are you comfortable talking about, but what do you know enough to talk about? Because I know a little about a lot, and a lot of times I'll get myself into trouble because I'll also be like, yeah, and this. And so they'll be like, what about this? I didn't know about that. I don't know how to talk about that anymore. So one of the main things I'm doing now is trying to get my knowledge up about shows, doing more research in advance. But by doing these test shows and really trying to figure out what the show is going to be when we go out there, even if the fans aren't interested, at least we've invested enough time in each other to be interested in the conversation happening at the table. Which is really important. Sometimes it's hard again because you just get a show where you're like, I have no, like, for example, one show I really like but it's hard to talk about is Archer.
Okay, yeah.
So I host the after show for Archer with Alexis Torres, who is amazing. She was like my bestie at AfterBuzz, and she's wonderful. But
how much can you talk about Arthur? Isn't it like a half-hour like comedy show?
Archer's a half-hour comedy. The cool thing about Archer is it has a lot of Easter eggs, but you have to catch and do the research in the 10 minutes you have between between you watching the show and you going into the booth to talk about the show.
Oh, you do like right away, after the show?
Most of the time we watch and then pick up all of our materials and go right into the studio. So it's like a mixture of a fan reaction and an in-depth analysis of the show. But it's complicated. When we were doing Westworld, we found Reddit was super helpful. We would go in and like read, we'd be like, here's a Reddit theory, because, we're going to steal the theories as our own, but it's also like
Didn't they
these people watch. Well, yeah, like sometimes like East Coast time too, which is so funny since we're an entire network. Things that I never thought about before I got in. I'm like, great, we have like screeners, and they're like, oh no, we just watch the TV. I was like, oh snap! So we're like watching real time with the fans. And it's even more connection because we're shocked as they're shocked, as opposed to like when you watch a show in advance, sometimes you have to feign shock. You're like, and then that happened, even though you knew that a week ago. And you're like, oh, we're still talking about this. So yeah, fans are the best. It's just not even. I don't even want to say fans because I feel like my fans, but like people that are interested and want to engage with you about the subject. Yeah. It's fun.
The passionate fans that are into the same things.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're great. Do you have like a goal or dream? Like, what's your main thing? What did you come out to LA for?
Like I said, I just wanted to work in entertainment. I mean, it would be nice to have like a daily talk show where I could interact, but like a nerd center. Like I miss like G4 and stuff. Like I'd like, and I don't see any reason why there won't eventually be like a nerd network channel. I think if DC or Marvel was smart, they'd start their own channel already.
Don't they have like DC All Access, or is that like what is that?
That's like an online thing, and maybe one day that'll be really cool. Like I've seen like their hosts are really great, and I love the interviews that they do. I've seen them like on YouTube and stuff, but I'm talking more about like a network channel. Like a full channel, because if you think like DC has all of its animated properties, plus all of its live action properties, which they share with Warner Brothers, which they're a subsidiary of, so it shouldn't be hard to get the access and rights to stream and screen those things. And then on top of that, you could do like breaking news. Like you could release your own, like here's the new poster and you have to be tuned in at a certain time. You could do like a news breakdown. Like I go back and forth between wanting like DC or Marvel to have their own channel to letting it be like a third party, just here's nerd stuff. Because I feel like comic books should be reviewed and handled like novels and books,
like literature.
Absolutely, because they are, but the literature with like fine art in the pages, like it's amazing. And people have a really hard, like Bibiani and I were talking about this the other night about how challenging it is to review a comic book if you don't like the art style, which you would think is foolish, because I can appreciate the quality of art without liking it, but have a really challenging time talking about why the art is quality if I don't like it. But those would be great conversations to have on screen with other people, really being able to show like high res versions of art and getting into the nitty gritty with it and talking materials and like all of that stuff fascinates me. So I know it must fascinate other people.
And it's a growing culture. Like people are just getting into it.
Absolutely. People keep like, oh, when is the superhero movie going to die? I'm like, if we're smart and we don't burn ourselves at both ends, it won't die. And Marvel has started us off on such a good track by saying, look, these aren't superhero movies. They're movies with superheroes in them. We own characters that we're going to be putting out there, but we're going to do war films and we're going to do personal dramas and we're going to do all. And I think they can only expand. Like I'm waiting for them to do a rom-com with Scarlet Witch and Vision because it's everything. And those couples, they're just so cute. We have a lot of options, I think, ahead of us as a nerd community. We're seeing Star Wars take that on with Rogue One, and then I keep calling it the Lando Project, and I need to stop doing it. It's Han Solo. It is Han Solo, but I'm just really excited for Lando.
Because it's Donald Glover?
Yes, absolutely. But they're showing like we can do different sorts of things and that our movies don't have to be so bogged down in the culture that created them. And I think as we expand and as we push forward and as we connect our universes across multiple platforms, I think there'll be more call for networks like these, and I would like those networks to call me so I can host a show and continue to talk about nerdy things.
Yeah, I mean that's the dream. You get paid to watch what you love.
Yeah, I want to be a female Kevin Smith. Like I like to make a movie every now and again because I did study directing in school, and my roommate is a writer director, and so we're working on a project right now. But I don't know, like being a female director is really challenging, and I don't know if I have enough energy to fight the good fight every day. You know, like Lexi Alexander is out there every day fighting the good fight, being like, women deserve respect in this industry. But she always looked real tired to me and frustrated. And while it's a beautiful cause and I love to help, I don't know if I could put it on my back, but I would like to make this like little small indie movies here and there. Like episodes, he's like, and if nobody likes it, it's totally fine because I made it for myself and hopefully you dig it. And then he goes and he runs his little comic book store and he makes buco dollars doing that. And then he
podcasts, his Babylons.
And he does podcasts, Babylons, and he just hangs out with his buddies all day and talks about nerd stuff and smokes weed. And like, if that's not the dream, I don't know what is. And I feel like there's room for at least 2 ladies, and I would just like to be one of them. That's it.
You and who? You and Emma 5?
I mean, if Emma 5, if that is her, I don't know what Emma 5's final goal is, but if that's what she wants, like, get in here, Emma 5. I'm totally cool with that. I'm down with any of my girls from Black Girl Nerds. I think that Valerie Complex, who if you don't follow online, you definitely should. She is crackerjack. She's like 80 times smarter than me. She's so intelligent, and she also has the sharpest tongue in the history of the world. She will just tear people down to shreds.
Wow.
They deserve it. But I would love like to see her blow up and do like on-screen interviews of creators, because she has like, we get a lot of softball questions, we get a lot of like
what do you mean?
And how are you today? And, oh, you must be really inspired by this war hero. How did it feel to try to become that person? Like,
wait, who gets softball when you're interviewing like an actor?
Anyone in Hollywood who is involved in any type of filmmaking tends to get, like, if you watch ABC or NBC or any of these major networks, who do these interviews, because you have to maintain these relationships with people far beyond the scope of this film.
Yeah.
You don't want to trip them up, and you don't want to be rude. And so your questions tend to be very rounded and also repetitive. People dig deep to try to ask something different and unique, but then usually it's not movie related, We don't like too much controversy because that could mess with the money, and that's how people are. Valerie doesn't really have a sense of that. She doesn't really care. She has questions, and she's going to ask them. And while it can rub people the wrong way, I think the people who get what she's doing and the results that she's getting are undeniable. She gets questions answered, like tough ones. Jen Yamamoto from Yamada, I think. Sorry, I'm really bad at pronouncing Jen's last name, but she's great. She works for the LA Times as one of their screenwriters. Film reviewers. She also does a really great job of getting in there and being like, look, I don't have time for these softball questions. I want to know, gosh, was it for Doctor Strange? She really went in about like why was an Asian woman not cast to be the one. Like, it just does not make sense to me, and I want answers, and you're not going to avoid it. And she got answers, and she wrote this beautiful piece. I really think that women like that, because I am not the one. I don't know how to rub people the wrong way. I'm kind of a squishy person, and I want to know more about people's internal lives than really like, why did you make this bad? I'll rant about it on the internet, but as far as like confronting people, it's a challenge for me. So I'm in awe of these women who are just full blazed in there, like, I have questions and I want answers, and I'm not going to be ignored. And then those women are able to capitalize on that success. It's something that they shouldn't be able to do. It's something that's not designed. The world's not designed for them to do, but they do it, and they do it so well. It's stunning.
So those are the people you look up to. Those are the women you look.
They are, yeah. Lauren Warren is up there. Jacqueline Coley, Janie Broadnax, Ava DuVernay, as I said before. Gina Blythe, who's doing she's the first Black woman to direct a picture for Marvel, which is really exciting.
What is she doing?
Oh my gosh, is it something?
Is it
Lightning and Silver or something? Oh God, they just announced it. But it's 2 Black superheroes, and she's doing the feature for them, and that's really exciting. So yeah, these women who are just like, I don't have time to apologize or to make you comfortable with my presence. This is what's happening.
This is what I'm doing. You can deal with it, or you can't.
Exactly. And the ones who don't manage to mess up their like careers in the process, because I've seen a lot of women go like full blaze, like, this is what I'm doing, and sometimes you just get smacked down. Sometimes people are like, that's not cute, or I don't think you're capable, or I don't like your work, so I'm just not gonna hire you. Or in the case of gosh, I wish I could remember her name, the showrunner for
the Smash.
Yeah, you read that?
I read that. She
incredible.
She like documented like the writer's room, and like how people are like, oh, we should add a female character because they're people too, or some bullshit stuff. And she's like, I've had enough of this.
And she basically was run out of her own show that she was originally headhunted to do. Like Steven Spielberg found her. She was a playwright and was like, hey, I think you could do the show. Please do it. And then Spielberg, because Spielberg had other things to do, he couldn't make sure everyone knew, or at least follow the trajectory of her being in charge. And so because of that, people were like, oh, well, I'm in charge, and I'm in charge, and I'm in charge. And you've got too many cooks in the kitchen. No one's following the actual leader.
Which is her.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's constantly getting pushed back and aside and around and told that this is not how her show should be run. And by the end of season 1, they managed to kick her off and drive the show into the ground in season 2. It's totally a mess. When she had already produced for you an amazing season. They didn't see that as her success. They saw it as a byproduct of like, oh, well, she just happened to be there and the show was a success.
Did it get canceled after
It did after season 2.
Wow.
Yeah, after they ran into the ground, they were like, and canceled, which is ridiculous because if you're anything like me, you loved Smash. It was so good. It was wonderful.
Was it good? I've never seen it.
It's a live. It's a musical. It had great characters. It starred that chick from
Catherine something?
Yeah, who is really talented.
From American Idol, wasn't she?
She was from American Idol, and she's really talented. And she kind of has a Broadway sensibility about her, which just made sense here. And also, what's her face from Will and Grace, and I loved seeing her everywhere. And it was just fun, and it had a lot of heart. It was like Grey's Anatomy, but with theater, and it was wonderful. And then they took it from me, and I will never forgive them.
NBC.
Yeah, NBC. I'm kidding. I forgive you, NBC, if you give me a chance to be on a show.
Well, I think we've covered a lot.
I feel like we did.
What have we learned here? You've done a lot. I don't know what we learned here. Batman is the real Batman, not Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, absolutely. Joelle's got to read more comics and watch more movies in order to satisfy the masses.
Have you seen Wonder Woman yet?
No. I have my ticket.
Is it next week, right?
It's the second. Yeah, so this coming weekend. After this long weekend, it'll be in Wonder Woman territory. I'm upset that LA doesn't have an Alamo Draft House. If you're listening, your website has said coming soon for over a year. When is soon? And I need like a timeline.
To LA.
I'm ready for Los Angeles to have an Alamo Draft House. It looks so dope. I would love to go to the women's only premiere of Wonder Woman, but I'm hoping that they're here by 2018 and we have a Black people only screening of Black Panther, and I will be there in the middle of it. This sounds amazing.
All right. What's your Twitter? Where can people find you?
Oh, yeah. You can find me all over the internet at Joelle Monique.
That's your Twitter and Instagram everywhere?
Yeah, if you're looking at Instagram has an underscore in there, but you'll find it. You type in Joelle Monique, I'll pop right up.
Find it. All right. Well, thank you for doing this. And,
thank you, Brian. I really appreciate it. It was fun.
Yeah. Hope you had a good time.
I had a wonderful time.
All right. Let's get out of here.